Alright, so underway is our new main storage perimeter. This is something we are doing now that we are updated. We could have, repurposed our old one, but it would have just been too much of a hassle to tear all that down, keep all the items, and then move them all into the new one. So instead, we're making the new one right a little bit more north than the old one here. And it's going to be, as you can see, a 530 block perimeter rather than the regular 272 that we did down here. We need an upgrade for our main storage. It was good at the time. We need something different now for our needs. So something I wish I did a long time ago was making this in a 512, just mainly for the lag reasons. It's not really too big of a deal because, most of the time the storage is just run by the chunk loading grid when it's actually being active. So it's not the end of the world if it's not in a large perimeter, but on the off chance people are here, it's always best to just make a larger one. And it's really not that much more effort at this point for us. So yeah, I'm probably going to keep around the same idea with the walls. Maybe I might space them out just a little bit more. As we do need to make these walls taller for the new terrain depth, of course. But the floor is definitely getting changed out. That is for sure. Now, this main storage is not going to be for everyone, and I know that. I laid it out and used various different systems that would fit our needs. This is by no means the best thing out there. It is going to be for our use only. That being said, it's still going to be pretty complex in everything that's moving around. I tried to think of everything that I wanted that we didn't have in this one that I really wanted to have in the new one. So it's been about like 10 days of my time just between, getting all the things together, getting them all into testing world, testing the storage itself with a bunch of items, and just changing various things. So it did take a while, but we are here in the end. And also, we have our first ever perimeter here that is going to be in 118 plus terrain depth, which is when the deep slate or the bedrock was converted to deep slate and all that stuff. So all of our old perimeters that weren't voided are now going to be changed to deep slate, which once was bedrock. And that also essentially means that we will have new terrain below all of them as well. So our first one, we're going to be making all the way down to bedrock, new bedrock level, of course, which is minus 59, I believe. Yeah, this is going to be quite decent. This trenching actually wasn't too bad at all. We still used those 8x6 game tick trenchers by Carry, which I think were modified version of someone else's. And overall, I think it's about like 3 hours per trench, which is, I would say, pretty decent for this terrain depth. I was actually blown away by how smooth it went for a 118 depth. Now, we did have to pause it every here and there because there was just so much lava. But I think part of that was just because of the fact we had 117 generated chunks with, all the new stuff below. So the generation couldn't really go above the Y0. It had to go always below. So I think that may have contributed to a little bit more of an annoyance because it had, like, lava generation from 117 chunks being up here and then lava down there. So it's a bunch more than I think it would normally be in the safe for the trench. But overall, it still wasn't too bad. Oh, I thought the thing, okay, Warrior's still going. I thought it didn't launch back over, but it definitely did. Bit of an ocean over here. That was mainly the annoyance at the top part, but Rubik did an amazing job with the pre-draining of the top here and the stone wall. I suggested to go out one more with the gravel walls. You can see the leftover are right here. Worked perfectly. So if you're ever using that, I believe it's a 13 wide middle bit here, so 15 blocks from the stone to stone. It was actually pretty decent, and very little we needed to plug in at the very edge. That's just because of the edge here of the ocean. You have to use like sand or gravel or whatnot on the edge for the seafloor. That's the only part you would need to plug, and it wouldn't be too often. As you can see, like some bits here would break, but we could just fix that by placing some solid blocks on the outside here. That would solve that issue there. A little bit of terrain height up here, but again, not that big of a deal. So for my first one, I would say trenching is a little bit more annoying. It just takes a little bit longer. I wouldn't say it's, astronomically worse. Maybe I just got lucky, who knows. But I think I'm still probably going to end up using these 8 game tick, or these 8x6 game tick trenchers. For now, maybe we might use the chrono trenchers on some larger ones that are larger than 512, but honestly, for me right now, I probably will stick with those current ones we have been using. I did stream a little bit of this, but most of the time we were just in the VC because everything is updated. People are interested in just playing the game now because there's more things to do, and it's just nice to have some things happen in a VC rather than just the streams all the time. So yeah, gonna let this War Eater run in the background now. We've got a little bit till we get actually down to some important levels where we probably have some obsidian mining and everything like that. So I don't even think we've actually destroyed anything as of right now. Maybe a few leaves, if that, down over here. But that's pretty much going to be it for now. Alright, and a few days later, the perimeter is fully completed out. We ran the last 20 layers on stream. We got a lot of diamond mining while we were doing that. About like 4 of us were going across the perimeter. We weren't stopping it every single, time it was going across. We were just kind of just like getting it as much as we could as the leader was running back and forth. We got about a little bit, like 2 and a bit shulkers from those last 20 layers, which is actually quite decent, I would say. But there was about like 9,000 in that area, and we managed to get about 4,000. So definitely, if you wanted to care about the diamonds, you definitely want to stop at every single layer. But I wasn't too worried about that. So just wanted to stockpile some of our diamond supplies, as we did use a few thousand on the fact that we needed to get 64 of every single armor trim when we updated. So yeah, this area is fully cleared out now. We got the schematic in sync to make the floor. I'm still trying to plan out some walls. It's going to be pretty high, so I don't know entirely what we're going to be doing with that as of right now. But everything is all cleared out in about 4 days or so since we started this on Saturday, and it's now Tuesday night, and this area is fully completed. So I would say that's not terrible for our first perimeter in 118 and it being a 530. So yeah, definitely will take that for sure. So now we're going to be working on the floor decoration first, and then we'll be working on the storage probably above after that. And maybe I can try to whip something together for the walls that's not too painful to make anymore, as we do not have any more shadow items. So that will be interesting to say the least. So yeah, we're going to get moving along with that stuff, and we'll be back probably once we have some updates on the floor decoration and we start working on the main storage. Alright, so we're a couple hours into this one stream fully done that we built some of this up on there. Pretty good progress for just like pretty much 2 of us for that full-time, third for a little bit of time, but mostly just me and Alex working on this. I got a pretty good amount of progress. I've noticed a couple, missing things, I guess you could say. Like there's a couple glass blocks like here and here that should have been there, but they're not like critical or anything like that. So I did fully test it running the Hermitcraft season 8 item list through it. So it's about 1.8 million items in total, I think it was. So yeah, I think we're all good there. So I'm going to continue up with these, working on the bulk shulker box loaders right now. As we are doing a quad bulk, we need to have 4 of these 64 long strip lines, as we have a 64 block long bulk. And Alex is working on the set-based unloader right now, which looks like it's almost done at this point, which is be really nice because that's going to be the main thing that's going to be handling the storage behind it, as that's going to be unloading all the items from the mix boxes that we put into the system. Over here I have a bulk dyer, so as we put boxes into the bulk, the first they will go to this system here, and it will, based off these chests here, it'll have like this is like basically an item filter, you could say, in a double chest. And these are the, I guess, color sets we're going to match to this. If I hold I over here and if I turn this on, You can see all the different types of blocks that we will have in bulk, and you can see that they're associated with a certain color. And these items that get put into the storage, they will get dyed this color before being sent off to the bulk. That way they are all color coded, and just makes the bulk look a little bit nicer with all different colors of boxes rather than just like, you know, the standard white, black, or the regular non-dyed boxes. These will all have a bit of color to them and just bring the bulk a little bit to life instead of just being all same or all a jumbled mess of different color boxes that are just thrown into there. So not a necessary thing to add to a main storage, but I feel like it's a very small addition and it just goes right before your bulk input. So it could even be added to an existing storage if you wanted to just redirect your bulk input to go to this first, and then you can send it up to the box sorter for your bulk storage as well. Of course, everything here is non-encoded, mainly just because I was the one to try to put this together, and I surprisingly was able to do so, having essentially 0 to none of the work in storage sec myself. Pretty much all I've ever done is do some farm storages, and that's about it. And that's pretty simple, just like putting a couple box loaders together, hooking up to a bulk storage, and calling it a day. So that's my extent to storage sec. So I've kind of just been learning things as I go. Some things are not going to be what you would consider, the best thing in the world, or this and that. Things like an accessible box loader haul probably wouldn't be on a lot of experienced or knowledgeable people in the storage tech. But for us, it really fits our needs because we have a lot of items where we have over 100 or over 2 double chests of. So for example, if we go over to the current main storage, we have a couple of things here that like we have a bunch of shulker boxes for that should, you would think, be in bulk, but it doesn't make enough sense to do it because we would never have more than a single double chest or 2 filled of boxes here. So we go to like coal ore, for example. We have over a double chest full of boxes of this, and you can see we haven't even make a second slice here just to put extra boxes because we have almost 150,000 of this stuff. But we're never going to get close to 1 million or 1.2 million that this bulk does. So it doesn't really make sense to give that a whole bulk slice. And it just makes sense to put it into an accessible box loader haul that has the capacity to store up to 200,000 that one we're going to use, which I think is just the best compromise for our storage. Otherwise, we would have like a 128 block long quad bulk, which would just be stupid and totally overkill because we would never even get close to filling a lot of those things in that bulk. So brine obsidian from the bartering, we got blackstone that's going to be going into the bulk. We also have all of the other variants of blackstone because we've been crafting those from that as well. So you can see how this list just starts to get a bit out of hand, but also it's not enough to justify signing it to the bulk, in my opinion. So this design is for us and will not be for everybody. That's perfectly fine because that is how storage systems are supposed to be made, in my opinion. But yeah, so I haven't even reached the halls yet, and that's going to be the bulk of stuff to do, and that will just take the longest, I think, out of everything. So I'll get onto this. I'm going to maybe try to get a time lapse in. I don't really know too well. I am looking into server replay so we can maybe start to see some stuff, some very, very long time lapses happening instead. On the server end rather than my client end, so it doesn't mean that I have to be here all the time. But as of right now when building this, because we just updated, I didn't do too much research into it. I have it installed to do the config files to get everything all sorted out and worked out. So for now, I'm going to try to do a time lapse. I'm going to do a stream here as well, do a time lapse, see how we can get this looking back on flashback, and then we'll see how we can experiment on the server side afterwards. So we'll be back probably once we have a lot more done, maybe even the full storage built up, and all it's have to do is to put in the filters. right, so the full storage is fully built up here. We spent a long time getting all the filters in, Rubik and myself. If I had to guess, we probably spent like 8 hours total doing the filters between the two of us. Yeah, it's been a while, maybe even longer. I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of filters to do here. But yeah, everything's all done and dusted. We probably spent like marginally more time building the storage compared to doing the filters. Maybe like 1.5x the time we took to just do the filters, we actually took to build the full storage in its entirety. We also do have the floor in place here, and we have the structure here to actually print the walls automatically for us, which I will cover in a few moments here. But yeah, I haven't done too much inputting of the loose items yet. I've mainly just been testing the bulk so far. However, I have done some testing to be sure that the variable unloader we have here is actually working correct. But yeah, the storage consists of two 8-item chest haul wings. We got one over there and one over there. We go down a little bit further, we go into the accessible halls. Now, this is probably a controversial choice when it comes to storage tech in this day and age, but I think it fits a perfect middle ground for us. The whole system has under 10% of unlocked hoppers while it is idle, which I think is fairly reasonable for the amount of time I spent on the storage. And for my first time going through it, I did sort of tailor it to my own personal needs, which of course any storage should be done that way. But yeah, so if we go to the halls, you got, you know, the terracottas, we got the carpets, the dyes, fans, and a bunch of the commonly crafted. When it comes to the items that we farm a lot in, like when there's like quartz, blackstone, nether bricks, all that fun stuff that we get a large quantity of from the farms, but not enough to be in a single bulk slice. Over here, another thing that wouldn't be sense to put in a bulk slice is all of the ores. We got that over there. You can see we got some more quartz stuff, some more stone, moss, cobblestone, deep slate, blackstone, some of the dirts, and honey, and all that kind of stuff. So that will all be there. Something you will notice is that all of the boxes in this haul are all going to be dyed black. That's just to fit the overall theme of the storage as well. And if we go over here, the way we control that, it's any empty box that gets input into the system here will get automatically dyed as a black box. And this will automatically kick back the dye if the box is already that certain color. So if we already can put some black boxes into here, the crafting recipe will not fail and the box will still be output, as you can see here. However, we don't waste any of the dye this way because we cannot dye an already dyed box of the same color. So with the Leo Smart design here, it'll then spit that dye back into it. But because of the update order, because we update this dropper first, which will always house the shulker box will always get input first before the dye. That way, if this slice is this slot here is filled with 64 black dye, we will not overfill this and put the dye over here. So that way, we can only craft the boxes correctly. And if it doesn't need the dye, it will not use the dye. Very smart system there by Leo. So huge thanks for them for designing into that. And then of course we have our chest hauls where we have all the different item types that we don't really have a lot of, and can all just be here. Yes, we could have done a multi-item sorter for some of these things, but my own personal hot take, I think multi-item sorters are useless when it comes to big storages like this, mainly because in my eyes, a multi-item sorter is just a slower overflow. Now, yes, you can have some sort of organization to it, but at that point, to me, chuck it in an overflow and let it just end up right over here for you to go through. I don't know why TNT is over here. That's a bit interesting to me because I'm pretty sure I put TNT in the bulk. Or maybe it was accessible that I put it in. Let's have a look. Yep, it was accessible. So that's my own fault. I input that into the bulk. So anything that gets input into the bulk that's not actually there, we'll just use that over to the unsorted. The smarter thing to do, now that I'm thinking about it, would probably just be to direct it to the main unloader down there. Because most of the time it's likely to be in the regular haul, but it's not that big of a deal. We can always just input this later, so it's right next to the input right over there, if we wanted to do so. For now, I'll just leave that over there. Moving over to here, we have the Unstackable sorter, also by CommandLeo. This thing handles quite a big step up of unstackables compared to the old one, which is a very nice thing there. A little bit of a box display here, or lamp display rather, that will tell you if the unstackable sorter does need boxes, which just get input right there. I could have tried to work a shulker box restock inline over there, but it's just more annoying than anything. That's what this system over here does. This is empty shulker boxes that we covered that get dyed over there. They get put into these silos that also are connected to a request and receive line. Each one of the main systems is actually linked up to this to have a redstone wire to call and request boxes. This one is for the unsorted or overflow loaders that has a line here. So if this thing ever runs out of boxes, it'll turn this torch on, which will then lead to this line over here, which then goes like this and starts a 8 game tick clock here that will constantly output boxes about 8 game ticks. And then until that request is completely filled, then that will keep continuously outputting boxes. For my testing, you need about 2 and a bit double chests to fully sustain even the furthest away refill, which is actually this one right here for the accessible haul, which is fairly reasonable because anything that doesn't get filled, it has a loop. If we go to this one over here, anything that's not filled or anything that's not picked up in a hopper will then just get transported right back. Into the unloader right here, or the bulk storage for the empty boxes, and it will all be good to go, so we don't lose any boxes that aren't used. We did walk past the restock station, which I have for a lot of things. These are ender pearls for those that are wondering. This is just a retexture for my squishy logo on them. We've got totems, bottles of enchanting, speed potions, fire res, duration 1, duration 3, pork chops, picks, and we are working on some shovels. We only have about like 1 or 2 shulkers of that stuff, so I did want to craft some more, but we hit to fix our XP farm at some point, so that will be probably covered in a different video. And then of course we have our lamp indicators here that you can interact with the note blocks over here. Bottom one is to toggle it on, top one is to toggle it off. And with the unloader that we can do for the main one, we can actually pause that system, and then we can unload the area within a little bit of time. This lamp over here, global locking is on. That is by default, which then also sequentially turns on the system idle and safe to unload. If the main unloader is running, it does take this lamp off. That way you know not to unload it. And something else I did add was color-coded beacons here. That way we can actually quickly signify, even from the outside, what the system is currently doing. So green will be the system is idle and it's safe to unload. Nothing's actually running in the storage. You are good to go. Clear would be if we input in boxes, bulk boxes manually without running anything else. And if we wanted to toggle the chunk loaders on for whatever reason, the system will also be clear in terms of the beacon. Red is the system is currently sorted. Do not unload that. And that will also turn off of that lamp over there. Yellow would be pause if the user manually pauses the system to make sure nothing is running with like a backup, or if we're doing a server restart, we want to have the system off before that happens, so we can do it that way. And there's one other one, because we have an extra system in here that is for the furnace array. If this is running, it will also turn on the chunk loading grid. That way you don't gotta necessarily be here while this is running in the background. It is K's furnace array here that we got that uses shulker box input. I mainly did this because most of the time when we want to smelt items, it'll be in shulker box form. We have Floppy's old one that is just regular item input, which was nice at the time, but I think we've outgrown that thing in terms of what we need at main storage. So I decided to actually include one that is shulker boxes only for the fuel and the input there. Output boxes are up here, so you can actually smelt 2 double chests worth of items at any given point in time. And there's a couple other lamps here. So if the chunk loaders are active, this lamp will turn on. The unloader is force paused, which is these note blocks right here. This lamp will show on, that way you can know that. When this lamp is on, however, you're going to want to wait until the beacons actually turn yellow until you unload the area. This lamp does turn on the moment you click this one here. If the storage is actually sorted, we take an output right from the unloader right here with a pressure plate that hooks up to a fade out clock. That way you can know the storage is actively sorting, and this is what actually turns off the beacons to go to red. That way you know the storage is actually working. And then of course, if the furnace ray is also smelting, there is a lamp indicator here. Essentially whatever is on the lamp indicators, there is a beacon color that will signify what is happening with the storage. Just a nice little thing I wanted to add to the storage there. Over here we have a mass crafting system that is a very small design here compared to the old one we have by Andrews. This uses player manual loading, of course, instead of Andrew's full box loading array. So you input the items, you go from top left to bottom right of the crafting table. So top left to bottom right like that. Then all your items get transported right here. You will then stand on that pressure plate, flick that lever, that'll start the unloading sequence. And then you're just mass crafting and put it into boxes here. Over here is the manual one. So you put your boxes up here. Say you wanted to craft iron into iron blocks, and you didn't want to put it into this one here. You could just put all your items up here. It'll then place the blocks, unload them all, craft them all, put them in here. Bit simpler, and of course the benefit is you get to keep the boxes if you really wanted to do so. I also have this hooked up, that way it'll output all of those boxes into the empties right here. And of course, if you're wondering, any box that, if the storage is filled, just despawns. That's what we got going on in this spot right here. Not too big of a deal if we would despawn boxes at this point in the game, because we have currently, I think, around like 2 million shells before we updated. So I think we're good for quite a while. You saw the unsorted and/or overflow right here. We have brought back our project material chest here. So for gathering materials for a project, we can chuck them in these chests, and it's easy to keep track of what is what. And of course, with the sign editing, we can really easily edit that sign without having to do anything different. And then just a couple of other stuff that we use quite frequently, like extra armor, tools, we got, like, you know, hose, shovels, and all that non-stuff over there. Any extra like enchantment books we want to have sorted, like protection, mending, all that stuff. This is good for just getting the books over to there, but sometimes we like to have them separate for easily craft or enchanting new tools. And then of course all mob heads, because we do have the Manila Tweaks data pack to drop more of those. Input over here, I'm actually going to go get some items and put them into the bulk for you here. As I am in the process of moving all of the old stuff, or all the stuff out of the old main storage here. Some things are completely empty and over there. Let's just move over some shulker shells for the quick demonstration. We got 54 boxes of shulker shells between this and my e-chest, which is why I have it all emptied right now. Those guys are there because we needed some things for the filters, but they will be disposed of later. So bulk boxes go on the left, loose items in the middle, mixed boxes in the right. One cool thing I like about this is that note block in the center there is what actually inputs the stuff into the storage. So you can actually have stuff in these chests, but not input it if you didn't want to run the whole storage right now. Something to know about this box right here, once this box breaks, it'll then be input into this chest right here, and it'll sit here until you click the note block to actually input the items. Same with anything else here. Click that note blocks, the bulk will also go through and is full checker, and if it's not filled, it'll then be sent to the main unloader, so there's a bit of a protection there. And of course, they all have their own protection of actually being checked for a box first, rather than just any loose items. Make our way down over here, we will see that this thing is running here, and this is how we get all of the boxes dyed a certain color. You will notice that the boxes we inputted are non-dyed boxes. Boxes are being outputted right now are purple boxes, which match the color type of the item of the shulker shell. This is a system by DrakePhose, and it is a really nice thing overall. So what happens because of this now, if we go over to our quad bulk, you will see that every single box color matches the item that it is representing. So red stained glass will be a red box, pink concrete will be a pink box, diorite will be a white box, light blue terracotta will be a light blue box, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. it just makes it so much cleaner to actually be inside of and try to recognize where things are rather than just having to look at a bunch of random assortment boxes. If we go to our old bulk again real quick, you will notice that it is kind of a mess and it just looks very unorganized because all the boxes are just either white, black, undyed, random colors of, yellow or purple or light blue. Nothing really matches what it's supposed to be sorted in. So this just makes it look a lot cleaner, and I think it's totally worth the effort of adding into any main storage, even if you have an existing one already. Now, yes, it does only operate at 18 game ticks compared to the 8 game ticks that the bulk can sort at, which is not a problem. You can just solve this by adding a little bit of a buffer. That way, when you're inputting items, you don't let them despawn and they're just in the little chest, little hopper chain here that will eventually make its way down. Yeah, this is probably my favorite addition to this new storage because it just looks so clean. And this quad bulk, for a non-encoded bulk, I think has a really nice UI. So huge thanks to Iris for allowing us to use this in our storage here. And yeah, overall, it's one of the cleanest quad bulks I've ever seen in terms of the UI. It doesn't look too out of place compared to a normal double bulk. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can see that the global lock-in is still on because we only input items into the bulk, and the chunk loaders are active because the item has been detected by the input here, which will be turning off momentarily. And then of course our beacons are clear because it's just the bulk being inputted. I probably could have added another toggle here for the beacon beams, but I don't think it was really worth it. I can probably try hooking up something via this clock right here that will detect it. If this is running, it'll then put that on, but this is based off the input itself, so I might not be able to unless I can take a signal from the main unloader right here to override that color. You can see the beacons just turned green right there because the chunk loaders did just turn off because everything has finished its operation. So I could look into that if I really was bothered about the clear stuff. I may, who knows. I kind of don't like having clear beacon beams, so maybe I'll try to add another color into the system that is signifying if the bulk is sorted only, but it just sounds like a lot of effort to do, and I've already spent so much time on this main storage. All that's left to really do is continuing moving all the items over from the old main storage, which is right behind that wall there, into the new one. And of course, finish the walls here, which we have a system that we're going to be trying out here. You may recognize this little part here. This is Illyrio's encoded gravity wall placer. However, instead of this one being gravity block based, it is actually going to be any solid block that you can do besides, slime, honey, any immovables, things like that. But it can be anything, whether it's solid, wind, or gravity blocks. But the big thing as well is it also includes up to 15 different item types you can actually input into the system, which I think is just a huge step up from the last one, only being able to do 3. So yeah, we kind of are the first survival testers. Even Kronos hasn't used this machine yet, which Illyria did mainly design it for, and also themselves, but we will see how the system works. I have pretty high hopes for it, and the design that I think it'll print will be really nice and save us the manual hassle of having to place over 550,000 blocks by hand. So I think it should be well worth it. We just need to gather all the materials for that, and then we can actually run that. But my main focus right now is to get this main storage fully operational and all the items over, which is why I'm going to go and do a stream where we're going to try to move over as many items as we can into the new main storage. Firstly, starting off the bulk boxes, just because it's the most quickest thing we can do, and it's the easiest and stuff we can do there. So I'm going to go do that, and we'll be back once this area is fully completed. But try for a time lapse of part, if not the full thing, of this wall for you guys. You can see that in action. But of course, if you don't see that, then it didn't go well. Alright, so the day has finally arrived. This is what the storage looks like now. without any display blocks, anything in the item frames. It is all packaged into shulker boxes to be transported over to the new main storage so it can eat very, very well for a little bit here. Everything is ripped out. There's about like 800 shulker boxes that are just completely filled with stuff on both wings here, which is just absolutely insane. You know, we got everything is just jam-packed. Now, it would be more efficient, I think, to like just leave it per item type for the storage, just go like this. But I wanted to take as little different number of shulker boxes over as possible, and apparently it's only around 800 for all of the stuff. I haven't even emptied the filters out, mainly because I just don't care. The only ones I really got were like the ores and diamond blocks and netherite blocks and those kind of things. That was about it. Everything else is just going to stay there because it's, well, it's just more of a hassle to get that all out rather than it is to just keep it like that. So this is unfortunately the day where we move out of our main storage that has lasted us 5 years in the making. Technically about 3 or so. The storage has been actually here because I didn't make a main storage for the longest times. So it's about, I think, like 3 years old if you go back in the old videos, that the storage has actually been here and been in extreme use for us to actually help develop all of the fun and interesting projects that we have done on the server since. And seeing the chest holes empty like this will feel kind of bad, especially once we get all the shulker boxes out and it'll just be an empty hall with this what the new storage looked like while it was being made up. Now we can finally move in to the old thing. Like you can see over here, the old bulk has also been completely emptied. Probably moved a couple 100 million items out of this this bulk right here, because, you know, every slice is capable of putting in like 750,000, I think it is. Now, granted, not all of them were filled, but a lot of them, like the concrete, the terracottas, all that kind of stuff, were filled to the brim. So it's definitely been quite a lot of time. I spent like 3 days, 3 or 4 days, like 3 hours after work every single day, just moving stuff over from the chest here into the main storage over there, which we are going to now go do. Made a backup just to be sure before I start inputting some boxes into the unloader here. We did test it. It is working now, so we got all that going for us. So everything is good to go. We can start finally moving over everything into the new main storage and getting these chest holes actually filled with items. The bulk, everything should be there that is already. We will still get some things that, like, you know, will be regular shulker box filled based off this load and array down here for the bulk stuff. So we have any sticky pistons or whatnot in the chest hall, which we did in the old main storage because we had stuff in the bulk as well as the chest hall, which just wasn't a smart thing overall. So everything's going to be operated out of the one hall that it's in rather than it be in multiple places. Just makes it easier to use rather than having to remember where it is rather than here. So we've run out of stuff in the regular chest hall for like redstone blocks, for example. Then we got to come over to bulk, take some stuff out, and then put it back over there. Whereas we can just work out of the box display right down here if we need loose items, or if we need the boxes right here, just grab them right like. So we will get some boxes to trickle in from items that are in the bulk that were also in the chest hall, but it won't be too many. But you can see this thing is completely jam-packed with a lot of stuff. The only thing we don't have right now that we will add very later is the frog lights. I was able to get 2 of each pretty easily. It wasn't too bad to get a couple frogs set up and then just take them over into the nether and just let them run free with some of the stuff there. Resin farm is already built up. You will see a video on this very, very soon. And then, of course, we got all the new stuff. Well, I say new, but like breeze rods and whatnot we're going to have in the bulk here. Yeah, it's finally time to go and do the pain of transporting over all of those choker boxes and let in the new set based unloading array, completely tear through these boxes and fill up the storage with all the items. Alright, so about 7 hours later, the full system is basically done. We got a couple of items getting unloaded here that have a couple of duplicate boxes, but not too long ago, all of these chests were filled upon filled with boxes, and we only have a very slim left that are currently getting unloaded here. So we've got the mushroom blocks, just going to be going to overflow. I think we have too many of those. So I'm going to put it in the chest hall. Coal ore, you can see that this array is now pretty much almost empty. There's not very many boxes getting unloaded now. So it's just these last few to be done. Once it's done, it'll break that box. The last item sent over here, you unassign it from the set. So now coal ore is gone. Next item type is going to be sent up, which is the shroom lights, which is part of another box that was already being unloaded. But yeah, this thing has actually ripped through those boxes that we had here, and only a small few remain. So these last boxes will take quite a bit because, of course, you know, it can only work on one box at a time, and if a box has like a bunch of different item types, it's going to cycle through them a very numerous amount of times to get through all of the different item types in there. But yeah, everything's gone really smoothly so far. Even had the server just with the chunk loading grid itself here, all working by itself. I even took the bots out that we normally have on the server. But yeah, it's gone really well. The server can actually run under 5 MSBT with the storage active and all the mob switches and all that fun stuff. So I call that a huge success, especially for my first time ever making this storage system, or any storage system on my own, rather. So yeah, our accessible hall should be filled with a lot of stuff now. We'll probably have quite a few number of filled boxes as well for all the different types of stuff that we will eventually get full boxes at the bottom. But yeah, you can see everything has gone really well. You can see all of our deep slate emeralds we got going on here, as well as the regular emeralds. These really shouldn't be over here, but just for the sake of the item layout, I just included them here. That way they're easy to find rather than having to chuck them in some random spot over here, which would be very hard to find. But yeah, everything, I believe, has worked out in the end. Everything is in its correct spot, besides those copper ones, which I did mention I'll need to fix. But that can wait. It's not a very important thing to change out right now for the new main storage. And of course, all of our boxes have been working. We also got to test that out based off of some of the stuff for the unstackable sorter, actually getting some boxes. I did see that actually request in real time. And you can see we have quite a bit of overflow. Mushroom stems, cut sandstone apparently. The walls here, I don't believe Leo's carpet script actually gave me them, which is why I believe that they are here. These stone brick wall, or these black stone brick walls here. Everything else, I believe, is just overflow, besides the sticky pistons for some reason. Don't know why that is happening, but yeah, that shouldn't be the case. It's not the hugest of deals, of course, because we're not really going to put them in besides just in bulk. But quite curious on how that's actually happening, because, I mean, maybe it's just a slightly too close, because sticky piston one is right here, and then the redstone block one is right after, I'm pretty sure. Or the observer is right after it, so, like, there's no observers in the overflow, so how is only sticky pistons? Not 100% sure on that, but I ain't gonna spend hours of my life trying to fix that. So yeah, everything is all good here. I did also add a little toggle here that will toggle this idle lamp off when just the bulk items are being inputted, because I didn't include that last time. A little bit of comparators just for SS1, then just we'll just retract this block here and and that will depower it even if this clock over here is not working. And of course, that's also linked up to its own clock, so we don't got to worry about another fade out. That'll also work there. Not really a big deal, but just for the sake of everybody, that will be there as well. Completely empty, so this system has absolutely teared through all those boxes from the old main storage. So yeah, we'll be back once this area is fully decorated and we are good to go. Alright, so everything is all decorated just off in that time lapse, but I just want to go over a quick couple of things that have changed in the main storage since we have moved into it for a few weeks now. You know, it's been a little bit since we actually started everything and had it all up and running. And you can tell that one has also changed right there, the color, but in the floor over here, probably like most of the items that we have when we get like project materials or whatnot, added these in-floor box displays that we can like sort of like fill up and then click this note block when they're filled, or we can also throw our own box onto the orange carpet and it will input that one too. So we have like a partial box, we want to just throw it down, chuck it on to this orange carpet right here, and then it'll swap it out. And then that's on both sides here. So I had two of them, they have their own boxes. I didn't really see a possibility of a way to get that hooked up. I mean, I probably could have. It's just not worth it. This many boxes will never get used in the first place. So that'll be perfectly fine there as well. Another thing we'll cover real quick is the beacon beam colors. So obviously to fit the AutoCraft perimeter decoration a lot more, as you can see in the back here, I changed the idle color to orange. I changed the furnace array to blue in that case, so they flip-flopped in a sense instead of it being green. And I changed the input or the system like initializing when we like input any items into it. We kick on the chunk loaders immediately, so there's no waiting between once you input the boxes and then this thing starting to actually start before the chunk loaders kick in. That way you can actually leave immediately. I changed that to blue, or purple rather. So if none of these are, if this is all retracted, so say, you know, we input boxes and that gets retracted, what would the red wouldn't be input until that pressure plate gets activated. So I took a torch system in the back here. It's like an AND gate, so that if any of these are active, the purple is retracted. But if they are all they are all inactive, then the purple extends, and that's like the system is initializing in a sense and getting everything all set up and running. Then it'll switch from purple to red if the red is active based on that little simple AND gate. And it was a very simple addition. It's just a single redstone line on the back here that I did for adding the 5th color there, making it a lot better than just that clear beacon that we had originally. Now, if I go around this corner here, it's going to be changed quite drastically. You'll notice the old crafted system is gone, and there's a little bit of a barrier here. That's just so we can go all the way around for the new crafting system over here, which is something that I found in TMCC. I will link in the description down below. So as we were like starting to use this system or use the main storage, a new thing came out, and I think it's overall a lot better, and it fit for my space a lot easier as well. It also allowed me to expand this little area up and also add more space as well. So the crafting grid is also a nicer UI. Top left is top left, and so at least the crafting grid as you're looking at it right here. For next thing we can add, we can also change the speed of it. If we wanted to put the boxes faster or slower. I found that 42 game ticks works the best for not only myself, but also any other members that have some ping. That also will work decent with everything there. This has stayed the same in a sense. I don't think that's changed at all. I put a bed back here, but I actually do need to sleep in and reset my spawn. And then all the items from that system drop down right there. You can just make out the water that it does make its way up and over into this little section here where we will load the boxes there. I kept this in the same spot, but what I did add is I added one of those little infested silverfish, XP farms that could be slightly just crammed into that with the armadillos right in the little corner here. Over here, we expanded the little, couple chests that I had over here to a lot of, stuff I talked about before with like tools, armor, mob heads, name tags, all that stuff that you really can't sort. The books, you can sort the books, but like different types of books, have them all frostwalkered or sorted out. We can have them all manually do that. Another thing I also just recently added into this, which I really wanted to showcase, is a rocket crafter for all 3 durations. Now, you don't choose what you want to craft, for example. It'll craft all 3 simultaneously. This is a system that I found. This is something I think was released in Chronos in like a share project channel that was, I think, one of my friends brought to my attention. It's sort of like a mass crafting thing. If I can find it, I will link it, but I believe it was in Chronos and share projects about like a rocket crafter. And I ended up making it all just 1 duration. I think it was used as a duration like 1 crafter maybe. Or maybe use it to duration 1 crafter. You just had to modify the clock for any other versions, which I did myself. But what I did is I made it craft duration 1, 2, and 3, but all at the same speed. So essentially what we get is we get around 3,000 of every single type of rocket passively crafted per hour in the main storage, which I think is a pretty nice thing to have because we don't need it to be too fast. And it can just run in the background. So I really like this little addition, and all you need to do is just mainly input sugarcane and gunpowder, and it has an AND gate protection so that any of those run out, it will automatically stop the system from running. And it's displayed right here why it is paused. I also did link this up to the chunk loading grid. That way you'll have that all dealt with as well. So if that is running, it will turn on the chunk loading grid and cover itself. But yeah, so we have a bunch, and I mean a bunch of duration 1, 2, and 3 rockets here, just from running this for my little bit of time. So everything is pretty stockpiled here, and I have like a mini bolt here from IRS as well that we have just added on to the system as in the corner here. And the full boxes just get up and over and into the box sorter. So we can actually sort between 1, 2, and 3. Which is a pretty nice thing to have as well. And then in the floor here, I actually have a, not really manual, but a kind of manual and automatic shulker box dyer. So if I take any box, for example, I'm going to just take, so I went ahead to just grab some stuff from the bulk where we had everything. So I'm going to just drop these 8 shulker boxes in here. It's the same CommandLeo box dyer that will go across, and then it just puts the boxes right here that are dyed, and then boom, just like that, I got 8 dyed boxes, and I don't need to craft them manually. Obviously, it's more intended to be like a larger thing. That way, you don't have to craft them all manually like that. But I've also used it just for like a couple boxes where I just have the dye on hand, and I just chuck them in, and I get them right here within a few seconds. So, really nice little thing there that I added into the floor that I always saw myself having to like dye the boxes black that I get from when I condense all the boxes from like projects where we have some leftover materials, and I try to condense them. I have a lot of like empty boxes left over. It's kind of hard because I don't really have an input for them. So I kind of just take them over here to the manual box, like things we have for the project as well. And I just put them in here, and that's kind of how I have like deal with like any empty boxes that I have on hand that I don't want to throw out. Just chuck them over there. But for what you're all here for, the decoration is being fully done. That time lapse that I showed there was a 9-hour time lapse, and you can see just how little of the wall it actually got. These walls go insanely high. I think it's in total close to 200. I think it actually might be like 200 blocks tall for these walls. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's actually more than 200 blocks tall because it starts all the way down there. So yeah, just a little bit of blocks that needed to be placed there, but everything is all done and dusted, and it looks just exactly how I imagined it, being all the black and orange theme. And I think this looks way better than the old main storage for sure, especially with the whole perimeter tying it together. And yeah, nothing I can say that went wrong besides maybe the first time we used the unloader and a couple of dummy items were missing, but that was all easily rectifiable. So huge thanks to everybody in the Storage Tech Discord. I will leave a couple of resources down in the description below that I learned from, because I went to this basically knowing absolutely nothing when it comes to designing the main storage, and I was able to learn through a couple of people, also people that were very helpful and supportive. So huge thanks to them as well. And yeah, everything turned out way better than I would have imagined when I first thought about having to design my own main storage. But hey, that just shows you, even if you're scared about some things, and stepping out of your comfort zone can actually be beneficial, even though it can be, a bit nervous to actually end up doing that. But I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. And yeah, there's, not really much different that I would do now, as I had added a couple of things after the fact, but that's just from actually using it in survival rather than just a creative standpoint. So yeah, really happy with everything and how it turned out. So make sure you like, subscribe, all sorts of things, and I'll see you in the next one.